It's Wednesday again. That means it's time to check out some DeFi charts once again. Some of these charts looking pretty juicy. Some of these setups, to me, looking more and more attractive by the week here. I will highlight those as best I can. Not investment advice, obviously. Here's Bitcoin dominance. As always, we're starting with the dominance because that sort of sets the tone, at least for me, in my head, the weather vane, what's going on here, broader market trends. As Bitcoin holds its sideways massive range here between 33 and 40K, that gives time for alts to catch up because we have profit taking from BTC, we have rotation trades coming into alts, we have ETH rising dramatically, and then rotation trades coming off of ETH into alts. So we're seeing the typical effects of Bitcoin stalling at all-time highs. I mean, this is a tale as old as time. Dominance is declining significantly, but remains above the 200-day moving average. Overall, as crazy as this is about to sound, I hope you're sitting down. I don't think it's alt season, personally. Definitely not based on this metric. I think it is DeFi season, perhaps, as many of these charts look really good. This is the DeFi Perp Index on FTX, and since Christmas, it's been all DeFi all the time. Massive uptrend here as it broke out from a triple touch of the 200 and arguably an inverted head and shoulders type of consolidation. And you see this on so many charts right now in the wake of this bullish rally. Here's another index that was brought to my attention, the Uniswap index. So this is the top 100 on Uniswap. And again, you're just seeing this massive, this is the 12-hour, just massive bullish rally since Christmas, really. And you got the 5200 cross on the 12-hour in early January. Big dip, rebuy, new highs. Dip it and rip it, as the kids say. Here's a link. This is the 2-day chart, because I can, and it still looks really good. As far as the pitchfork is concerned, pick 3 points, get a rate of change. I like $60 link by September. I like $60 as far as a high for the year. I like $60 3x expectation from now till the end of the year. It's boring, it's simple, it makes sense based on the rate of change, it makes sense based on what's happened with Link over the past few years. Trend is your friend until the end, and that's all there is really to say about Link. The chart is the chart. Here's Aave, pretty explosive move since January. A lot of these charts I've measured out the high-low fib extensions. So Aave is currently in between the 2618 and the 3618. It's between the R2 and the R3. More often than not, price will acknowledge one of these as its final resistances before the trend is over or pulls back significantly. So the R3 is somewhere around 227. You know, if that is successful, then it goes higher. It's like a ladder. It's an if this then that decision tree. If 227 is good, then 285. If 285 is good, then 350. As far as the trend on the cloud, it looks obviously bullish. It's still really far away from the Kijun here, the mean reversion line. So support for me sits around 130, 120. That would be a decent dip buying opportunity in a vacuum. Uni on the 6-hour. Again, here's that inverted head and shoulders that we see on tons of charts leading into 2021. You have your bullish Kumo breakout, you have a breakout of the neckline on the inverted head and shoulders, massive rip up, a dip in mid-January, and then ever since then it's just been nothing but straight up. So it's currently in between the 2618 and R1 yearly pivot, somewhere around 940, 950. I think it's going to have a tough time breaking 10 just because it's a psychological level. And keep in mind, this was an airdrop that was given to people. So if anybody's still sitting on that, they're doing quite well as far as free money is concerned. And that may also play a role in selling pressure for anyone who doesn't want to continue to hold that position because they're in such massive profit. In general, human behavior, if you get a windfall, if you win the lottery, you're going to want to take profit, you're going to want to realize profit. In this case, it would be creating selling pressure on this token specifically. But if it can pass 10, I do like 1350. It's the 4618 from high to low here, as well as the R2 yearly pivot SNX USD, again, more of the same. Inverted head and shoulders leading into a bullish Kumo breakout, and it's just climbing the yearly pivot ladder. It's basically at the 4618 of the inverted head and shoulders. It's above the R2, TK, C-clamp here. Plenty of reasons this needs to relax a little bit. I mean, it's up, what, 3x since mid-December? Some craziness here. So the dip buy would be 1050. Very reasonable repurchase based on the yearly pivot and the daily Kijun. Higher highs would be 20, 25, 30. Just any simple psychological resistance levels. UMA on the 4-hour. It had this really broad range. Not quite an inverted head and shoulders, not quite an Adam and Eve. I don't know why this structure is the way it is, but nonetheless, it's above all of that now. And it looks like it tested it, confirmed it as support. So if these yearly pivots mean anything, 1650 is the upside target, the final destination of sorts for this next range up. A lot of these charts look super violent, super rangy, so it's not really a trade for the faint of heart. It's more of a buy and hold situation, honestly, if you believe in DeFi as a sector. Here's Wi-Fi. Speaking of something that's not for the faint of heart, at 34K a coin right now. Not a cheap purchase by any means for a full coin. On trend metrics here, it does look okay. It's above the previous range high, kind of ascending triangling, forming some sort of ascending triangle. Above the yearly pivot, R1, above the 200. I don't know. For me, there's no trade here, really, until there's some sort of chart pattern or divergence or something. But you can see how the descending triangle acted. If this becomes an ascending triangle at the R2, there's a really good chance it breaks 38. Comp, speaking of mega range, still in an uptrend, not for the faint of heart. This is one such coin. So lots of range here on comp, still making higher highs, still making higher lows. Cloud likes 200, 195 as a support, psychological support as well. Yearly pivots like 260, 370, 365 as upside potential, which would be a new all-time high, I believe, for the USD pair. But it's pretty obvious that that's in a bull trend there, 45-degree angle. Ren, this is an interesting chart because for weeks and weeks and weeks it was just a hot mess, right? Just absolute ranging all over the place. Random walk, turtle soup, call it what you will. And then all of a sudden a couple weeks ago it became a little more clear that, all right, maybe this is just some sort of triangular range that's figuring itself out in some sort of consolidation. You can see the descending volume profile here as well. And that broke up. It broke up above the cloud, which at the time didn't really mean much because it broke up and down the cloud, over and over again. There's a bit of an Adam and Eve here leading into this bullish Kumo breakout. So right now with a measured move of the pattern as well as the 1618 fib, it's basically where you'd expect it to go already. And this looks super vertical. So if I was actually trading this wouldn't be something that I would want to buy up here. Definitely a rebuy around 50 cents. See how it looks at that point in time. But this is especially this, to see the breakout with the descending volume profile is a bearish divergence. It says there's weakening bullish momentum as price goes higher. So it's definitely in be careful territory, rebuy around 50 cents. Serum, speaking of bearish divergences, very clear bearish divergence there. Higher highs in price, lower volume. It is above the yearly pivot. It is at the VPVR consolidation. So if it can clear this 165 to 195 resistance, I do like the next yearly pivot, basically a revisit of all-time highs, somewhere between 3 and 330. Overall, though, trend looks bullish as it's above the cloud on the 4-hour. So this consolidation, multi-month consolidation, did resolve in a bullish manner. Here's Algo USD on the daily high time frame for an alt. So any bullish Kumo breakouts should be treated as rather probable long entries, as is the case here. Potentially some sort of inverted head and shoulders on a macro, like multi-month, almost year and a half scale here. So trend likes it, chart patterns like it. Any of these yearly pivots on the way up could be resistance, but this is pretty much just the buy and hold really at this point, and or a rebuy somewhere around 50 cents. based on the Kijun and yearly pivot. Band USD, another example of a bearish divergence, higher highs in price, lower volume, lower RSI. I like this one. If Algo is an entry as of a few days ago, Band still needs quite some time here, maybe 2 weeks before it's above the cloud. I think any buys around $8 look good, and so long as it remains above the cloud, it's a buy and hold with targets of 16 and 26 based on yearly pivots. So this one needs a little bit more time. .USD, quite the comical chart. Definitely feels like it got carried away with a bit in the moment. I don't know where this one ends up. It feels like all FOMO nonsense. Any ICO buyer is in several thousands of % profit at this point. So we had this curve, which is bullish. This typically resolves eventually to the upside. You don't want to see the opposite of that, which typically resolves down. So you had that leading into a inverted head and shoulders on the 12-hour, and then just straight FOMO. Straight FOMO, probably nothing on the exchanges. And at one point it was number 4 in top by market cap. So you're going to get a lot of new people looking at that saying, oh, what's this? It's new. I've never heard of it. Let's check it out. Oh, it's an Ethereum killer, or oh, it's an Ethereum whatever. Let's buy it. It's only $17 and Ethereum is $1,200, right? Like these are the sort of thoughts that I'm assuming run through a lot of people's heads when they see stuff like this. To get this to run how it has over the past few months. Definitely an outlier, even amongst the DeFi charts. So it's currently at the 4618 of this dip buy, so you could always remeasure it up here. You could look at further yearly pivots. I don't know. This is not a trade for me. It's way too hot. I think this is going to be a massive Eiffel Tower when the Grim Reaper shows up and sells this thing down. Kava USD, again, much like Band, needs a few more weeks probably before it's above the cloud. But the pace at which this has taken to get above the cloud is assuring in the bullish camp for a continued bullish rally. Looks like there's a upcoming 5200 cross as well. So if you get a 5200 cross on the daily with a bullish Kumo breakout, what else do you want? That's go long city all the way, as was the case mid last year. If it can get above the yearly pivot, even more evidence that this is headed for 470, which may or may not be all-time highs. And then beyond that, $8, $10, any of these other yearly pivots look like decent targets. Here's Sushi, had a multi-week rising wedge that never really sold off. And then you got this cloud retest that has taken off since, Kijun bounce. So all this so far has acted within the bounds of typical cloud trends. You're looking at a rebuy around 6. It's currently above the yearly pivot, so the next yearly pivot up is 1250. So if this can survive at this price, I expect easily somewhere around a 2x from here, with FOMO potentially to 22. There's a lot of Twitter hype and influencer hype into that coin. One thing that gives me caution personally. BZRX talked about this falling wedge psi pattern a few weeks ago that it's finally broken up out of the 6-hour cloud. And if you just measure that, so you take the high, you take the low of the pattern, and we measure it up, we get a 1618 of around 50 cents. We get a 2618 of around 70 cents. So I like a range somewhere in here. So that would be a new multi-month high, yearly pivot around 68 cents. Bancor, much like Algo, you're getting the first bullish Kumo breakout, in this case since mid-2020. So trend-wise, it says buy and hold. You're adding anywhere around 150, 140 based on the yearly pivot, based on the Kijun, and upside targets are any of the yearly pivots here. As far as measured moves are concerned, if we're looking for 4618s on everything these days in DeFi land, you're talking somewhere around $4, 360, somewhere around there, as far as a target to realize some profits. And then lastly, RSR USD, a bit of an ascending triangle here, kind of looks like YFI in that sense. And you can see how the cloud wants this to flip bearish on the TK cross. So if you get a bearish TK cross followed by a bullish TK cross, this is the 6-hour, I'd certainly expect this to go higher. Potentially 10 cents, by end of year, depending on how long this strength of this trend lasts, but it's looking real good with markup phase currently in the works. So overall, DeFi stuff looks really strong, looks strong against BTC. It looks strong as BTC enters consolidation at all-time highs. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments below, and happy trading.